How's it, everyone? Welcome to OpenCourt. So today I'm doing another string review, this time on a Volkl string. So you guys have probably heard of Volkl Cyclone. It's one of the most popular strings on the market. But today I'm taking a look at Volkl V-Square. Let's check it out. So I'm sure most of you guys have heard of Volkl Cyclone. It's very popular among casual players because it gets great spin and great control, and it's also under $10, so it's a pretty good budget string. Well, this Volkl V-Square, as the name suggests, is a square-shaped Volkl string. So this square shape is supposed to get tremendous amounts of spin. This is one of the highest rated spin strings on the Tennis Warehouse metrics, so I was very excited to give it a try. On the back of the package here, it says the sharp square shape offers the next generation of shaped copolymer strings, providing superior bite and handling, so spin and control. Made with an exclusive material that maintains better comfort with minimal tension loss. So it has additives that is supposed to make it play a little bit softer to help you protect your arm, but it's also supposed to have minimal tension loss. And as most of you guys know, one of the biggest detriments with soft playing polyesters is that they stretch and they lose tension very quickly. So the back of the package here promises good tension maintenance as well as good spin, good comfort, and good control. Volkl has a number rating system, as you guys can see here, and it's rated a 9 for power, which means that it is supposed to be a powerful string because it's soft. It also has a 7.5 for control, but the spin is supposed to help with control anyway, and an 8 for durability. So to sum up, V-Square is supposed to be a soft playing, slightly more on the powerful side polyester, but its square shape is supposed to get tremendous amount of spin and also help with control, and the construction of this is supposed to maintain tension a little bit better than some of the other polyesters on the market. Does it live up to its promise? Let's get this strung up and let's get on the court and find out. Alright guys, I'm here on court. I got the Volkl V-Square strung up in my Prince Techstream Tour 100. This is a 100 square inch 16 by 18 string pattern, so it's a very open pattern. It has a very high launch angle, but it also gets a lot of spin. So I'm hoping this V-Square, which is supposed to get a lot of spin, will help me to keep the balls dipping inside the baseline. So let's get on the court and find out. Whoa, yeah, okay, so the launch angle on this racket is very, very high. So I put the V-Square in here to try and get the spin to get the ball coming down. So far it's taking quite a bit of an adjustment. I gotta be really disciplined on the follow through to get the ball coming down, but I can feel the ball, or I can see the ball coming down. It has a pretty good amount of spin. The packaging of the V-Square said that it was supposed to be a softer playing poly. I'm not quite feeling that. It feels pretty stiff so far, even in this open 16-18 pattern. The response feels very similar to Volkl Cyclone. It's got that muted, dead feeling. I don't think it's quite as dead as Cyclone, but it's definitely not springy or lively. The packaging of the V-Square said it was rated a 9 out of 10 for power, which I'm finding hard to believe because the string feels pretty dead. I gotta take a big swing to get the ball anywhere deep in the court. However, the spin does feel good. I really feel the strings grabbing the ball. So far, this V-Square has the makings of a great control string. I can feel it. I wouldn't really classify it as a comfortable poly either. Even in the 16-18, it does feel pretty stiff, which is why I feel like I can take a big rip at the ball and get control. It does feel a little bit more lower powered than I expected, with the packaging giving it a 9 out of 10 for power.
So far, I would probably rate it like a 6 out of 10 for power. But power is not really what I wanted anyway. I think this will benefit big hitters a lot who take big cuts from the baseline, because the spin and the control and the muted dead feel will help keep the ball in play. So usually at the net, I like a crisper playing, livelier poly, because I know exactly where I'm hitting and I can hit those angles and touch shots, drop shots, angle volleys easier. This string is pretty dead, so I don't know if I can aim as confidently on those. But at the same time, because it's dead, I'm not too worried about hitting the ball long. I prefer a slightly more powerful string at the net because I don't have that big of a swing at the net. I kind of just block it in front, so an extra powerful string will give me a little bit more depth, a little bit more speed on my volleys. This one I really have to kind of punch out, otherwise it just sits up there. So it's kind of a blessing and a curse. I don't have to worry about hitting the ball long, but at the same time, all of my shots become sitters unless I really punch at it. Sorry, like that. It does get some pretty good spin, so I see the backspin on my slices, which is nice. The ball just kind of dies if I get a good slice at the ball. It's got a nice consistent feel. It doesn't feel like there's any dead spots on the string. But part of the reason why it doesn't have any dead spots is probably because I don't really know where I'm hitting on the strings. Yeah, what the heck, I'm not feeling anything. This thing feels very dead at the net. But it's got good control. I just block it in front like that. Ball goes. I think I like this string a lot better at the net than I do at the baseline. I just need a little bit more pop and response from the baseline. I'm comfortable at the net, so I don't need too much help up here. But I do still prefer a livelier, playing more powerful string. So after playtesting the Volkl V-Square in my Prince Textreme Tour 100, I do want to make a slight correction. I said in my first impressions, I thought that this string played a little bit stiffer than I expected because the package said that it was supposed to be a more powerful, more comfortable poly. I actually felt that after the first session, the strings actually softened up a little bit. So on the second play session, I felt a very big difference from the first session. It felt a lot less stiff, and I felt like it was actually getting that power that the package promised it was supposed to get. So I guess this string has a break-in period similar to some other strings I've tried, such as Whitex Quadro Twist, Solinco Confidential. Those strings play a little bit stiff to begin with, but then they kind of settle into the racket nicely, and then they start getting a little bit more playable, a little bit more comfortable. The V-Square had a very similar break-in period. So let's start with what I liked about this string. So the biggest pro of the Volkl V-Square is that it does deliver on its promise of getting incredible amounts of spin. When this string was fresh, when I was stringing it up, the sides were incredibly sharp to the point where it was kind of hurting my hands to string the crosses. So I was hoping that these sharp edges would bite the ball, and I wasn't disappointed at all. The one area that I really judge spin crucially is on the kick serve, and I really felt that my kick serves were kicking higher than usual. Sometimes when I was playing against my opponent's singles, I was able to get the kick serve out wide on the ad side, kicking up above the shoulders. My opponent would have to hit backhands above their shoulders, and I was able to easily follow up the ball into the net for a passing volley. I also strung it up in a racket that has a very high launch angle because the string pattern is a very open 16-18, and the spin and the control really helped to keep my balls deep but also coming down inside the baseline, and I was able to drive my opponent's back on aggressive forehands. Slices also felt very good. I could see the ball gliding like a frisbee, and it skidded and stayed low. Slice serves out wide on the deuce side felt great as well. My opponent would have to chase them down outside the court, and again I was able to come up and put the volley in the opposite court. The power level was surprisingly decent. At first I was very skeptical because the back of the package said it was a 9 out of 10 on power, and I thought there's no way a polyester string, especially a Volkl, would have that kind of power. And at first I thought I was right, but once the strings settled into the racket,
It's softened up and the power level also increased a little bit. It's definitely not a powerful polyester by any means, but even on flat serves, I felt that the string actually gave me a decent amount of power and I was able to pressure my opponents right off the serve. But again, on flat serves and put away volleys, I still really had to swing out on the ball. There isn't much free power, just a little bit more power than I was expecting from a stiff polyester string. Although the Volkl V-Square softened up after the first hour or so, it is still fairly stiff. It kind of lies in that gray area where the string is stiff, but it's still fairly comfortable, which is hard to achieve. The V-Square held tension pretty admirably for a quote-unquote softer playing polyester. If you want even more control and don't really mind the stiffer feel, you could try pre-stretching the V-Square so that it holds tension better, but I would say the tension maintenance is average. It's pretty good if you compare it to softer polyesters, but it's not the best. But I was very satisfied with Volkl V-Square, especially from the baseline on kick serves and on topspin forehands. I could really take aggressive cuts at the ball. I could trust that the spin would bring it in, and the extra spin I was putting on, especially on the kick serves, helped me to stay offensive, which is what I like. Now moving into the cons of the Volkl V-Square, the biggest drawback is that it plays best when it's fresh, but that freshness wears out after the first day or so. The biggest pro of the V-Square is the incredible spin, but it only maintains that incredible spin for that first day, because once that slick coating starts to wear off and the side starts to smooth down a bit, this string gets stuck out of place so that it doesn't maintain that great spin generation. I was actually very surprised at how much the V-Square moved. Typically on a slick polyester, the strings snap back into place fairly well, but I used it in a very open 16 by 18 string pattern, so that could have contributed to the inordinate string movement, because if the strings are that open, it slides out of place even more, and so the friction will cause the strings to lose their coating faster. I wish that the V-Square maintained that spin level a little bit more, but if you're not using an aggressively open string pattern like I did, then it probably won't be much of an issue for you. I also strung it at around 52 pounds in the mains and 50 in the crosses. The lower the tension, the more the strings are gonna move, so I feel the V-Square is better suited at higher tensions where the strings will snap back a little bit better. Also, players who use a tight string pattern and want more spin should consider the V-Square, because tighter string patterns tend to have less string movement. But unfortunately for me, the biggest con for the V-Square was that they started to get stuck out of place. I was losing the spin and the control that made this string fantastic to play with when it was freshly strung. And the second con of the V-Square was that the feeling of the V-Square was very reminiscent to another popular Volkl string, which is a Cyclone. And unfortunately, I personally don't like Cyclone all that much because it has a very dead, muted response, and I don't feel like I can aim for the sharp angles, the corners, and the drop volleys that I like to use with confidence. The V-Square is quite dead. Not quite as dead as the Cyclone, but at the same time it's not as crisp or lively as some of the strings that I like to use. I didn't feel as connected to the ball as I would have liked. I hit a lot of drop volleys right into the net. I want a string that gives me a little bit more feel and responsiveness so that I can hit angles and touch shots, and a little bit more power so that I don't have to work as hard from the baseline, because I don't have that much power to begin with. If you're a fan of the Volkl Cyclone or Babala RPM Blast, Dunlop Explosive Spin, Kirschbaum Max Power, those kinds of really muted and dead feeling strings that are more suited towards aggressive baseliners that can generate their own power with full swings, I think the V-Square might be suited more for you. But if you need a little bit more help in power and feel, I don't think the V-Square is quite going to satisfy those types of players. So overall, the V-Square was a very interesting string to play with. It definitely plays best on that first day, right after the break-in period, but right before the strings start to get stuck out of place. Unfortunately, that prime playability period was pretty short for me, and so I don't think this is a string that I could take into a tournament, because I'm not sure that it's going to play the same in that second match. I think the V-Square is definitely meant for big hitters from the baseline who want more control and spin, and can generate their own power with those big swings. Also, heavy topspin hitters will also benefit from the incredible spin generation, as loopy topspin ground strokes will push your opponents back even more, and kick serves will force opponents to make contact at shoulder height. I think you guys can stay on the gas and be very aggressive if you're an aggressive baseliner or a heavy spin hitter. I do not recommend the V-Square in a hybrid because the edges are extremely sharp. They will saw into the softer strings quickly, and I think that'll result in premature breakage. I definitely recommend it if you're a big hitter who likes to generate their own power and want a little bit more spin and control. Thank you for watching this review of the Volkl V-Square. If you guys like this content and want to see more like it, be sure you overhead smash that like and subscribe button, and I'll see you on an open court.